Obviously, if you watch the news, you've seen social media, the crime rate in Baton Rouge has gone up in 2019. Talking to the chief the other day, we're about 20% so far higher, of a 20% rise in homicides over the high of 2017. Not all the news is bad. Obviously, crime is cyclical. As you can tell from the graphs in the PowerPoint, Baton Rouge violent crime has risen and dropped, and it's consistently dropped over the last 25 years or so, violent crime. But we do get ebbs and flows and peaks at times. We had 2 straight years in 2018 and 2019 of 10% declines in the homicides for 2 consecutive years. So 2019 having a 20% increase obviously is not a good thing. But crime overall in the United States, and you can tell from the lower graph, violent crime has decreased over the years. You wouldn't know that watching the media or looking at social media, but crime has decreased. Violent crime has decreased over the years since the 90s. In the 90s, you had the bad crack epidemic, and it led to huge increases in crime, but crime has steadily decreased over those years. So when you do see 20% increases in homicides, obviously it's not a good thing. And I know the chief, with the model of data-driven law enforcement, will help reduce that crime rate. Obviously, the homicide rate and the shootings, I think there's about a 5% increase in shootings so far this year from last year. So those are obviously things that we need to work on, that the community needs to work on. It's not all, you can't put it all on police officers and police officers doing their jobs. It takes a community to get involved in crime, and that's one of the reasons Crime Stoppers is here. So certain causes of crime, obviously there are 3 major causes of crime. There's lack of education, poverty, and being raised in a single parent home are major factors that relate to crime. And in Baton Rouge, most of the homicides committed in Baton Rouge stem from groups of young men that have been experienced all 3 of these major causes. They didn't get an education. They're in impoverished areas. So if you don't have an education, you can't get a job. You're in poverty, and you're raised in a single parent household. You don't have that role model, that solid role model, male role model in most cases, because most of these cases are committed by young men. So those are the contributing factors, the main contributing factors of crime in Baton Rouge. One of the things, obviously, that you can do to help is support local law enforcement. I think one of the issues that we're seeing right now in Baton Rouge is a lack of pay among police officers. Our local police are paid almost 30% less than surrounding agencies. That includes state police, New Orleans, and the local Baton Rouge Police Department. Policing in an urban environment is completely different than what, say, a state trooper does, and the fact that they police the interstates, and they also do criminal investigations and things like that as well. But Baton Rouge Police Department really should be paid on a level with New Orleans Police Department. It makes recruiting extremely difficult. And I know that the chief would probably back me up on this, that recruiting has been a difficult issue over the last couple of years. Obviously, the climate as it relates to policing is one of the reasons that recruiting has been pretty difficult. Obviously, when an officer looks and comes to possibly or a person comes to get a job with the Baton Rouge Police Department, there's a lot of benefits to working on. I mean, we have numerous different divisions you can work in. You don't have to stay in uniform patrol. You can go to aviation. You can go to K-9. You can go to our SWAT team. You can go, handle traffic, do traffic reconstruction, detectives. There's numerous divisions and numerous things, which makes the Baton Rouge Police Department attractive. But when they see that starting pay of $32,000 a year, they'll kind of put that pamphlet back, and they'll go to the next booth if they're at a job fair somewhere and look at state police and look at NOPD, look at Gonzales, he even makes more than Baton Rouge Police Department. So it's a constant struggle, and it's a struggle for the chief, and it's something that hopefully you as Rotarians can look to support in the future when it comes to law enforcement and pay for the police department in Baton Rouge. Obviously, you can support local education as well. Obviously, our education system in Baton Rouge, public education system, has suffered over the years, and putting forth the effort, the time, donating the time and the money necessary to help improve education. It's not always about money. It's about the curriculum and the things that they teach in schools nowadays that you might need to get involved in to help change. Take the time, obviously, to be a role model for a child that might not have a stable role model at home. And obviously, Rotarians and different business owners can invest in poor and underprivileged areas, because that's what's going to help those areas. They have jobs, and in those areas, it'll definitely see a reduction in crime in those areas. And last, and one of the most important things is, if you see something, say something. Unfortunately, a lot of people have a feeling of apathy when it comes to crime, and sometimes they're intimidated. They're scared of retaliation when it comes to crime. If they see something or they know something about a crime, and Crime Stoppers works under that principle that, with every crime that's committed, somebody other than the offender knows something about that crime, and that's why Crime Stoppers is there to allow that person that knows about crime to dispel their fears of retribution, because all Crime Stoppers, it's completely anonymous, and to give them the added benefit to take away the apathy of a cash reward for reporting that crime. So we'll talk a little bit about Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers. Obviously, the godfather of Crime Stoppers is Sid Newman. Back in 1982, Chief Pat Banana asked a young looking homicide detective at the time, and that was Sid Newman, to research about a new tip program, or citizens tip program, that was kind of branching out across the country. Sid took on that responsibility. He went out, researched about Crime Stoppers programs all across the country, and brought that information back and started and founded Greater Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers in 1982. That program has grown tremendously over the last 38 years. We cover an 8-parish area that includes East Baton Rouge Parish, Ascension, Livingston, West Baton Rouge, Iberville, East and West Feliciana, and Point Coupee parishes. So we have our office, and we'll discuss that a little bit later, is in the violent crime unit at the state police. So we have access to all of those different groups and organizations, police organizations, to transmit that information on the crimes that people call us about. Obviously, Crime Stoppers is a one-of-a-kind nonprofit organization for concerned citizens to report crime and information anonymously. Crime Stoppers programs, there's Crime Stoppers programs worldwide. There's hundreds of Crime Stoppers programs across the world. And Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers, because of Sid Newman and all the work that he did, is one of the most successful Crime Stoppers programs in the country. And when we get to the end of the presentation, I'll give you some of the numbers on the crime solved and the property recoveries and narcotics recoveries that have been made just from this particular Crime Stoppers program. We have 3 ways that you can report crime anonymously. You have, obviously, through phone, have a web tip through crimestoppersbr.com, through the web, our website, and also through a cell phone application, which is a P3 cell phone application, which any of you can download in the App Store, or I guess the Google Play Store for Android phones, and submit a tip through the P3 app. you can also attach video or pictures to that tip. The added benefit of receiving up to a $5,000 cash reward, and that's for double homicides is $5,000. Homicides we normally give $2,500, but if it's 2 or more homicides, the increase is up to $5,000. And we do pay upon indictment for a homicides. Now, any other felony crime, we pay the rewards based off of the arrest. So, we obviously, the Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers has an executive board that's made up of civilians in the community. The board of directors provides direction about fundraising and other initiatives, promotions, and activities of the program. Right now, our chairman of the board is Bill Lockwood. The vice chairman is Carl Morrow. Our secretary is John L. Daniel. Our treasurer is Kathy Wiley, and our immediate past president is Lori Aronson. And those particular individuals are the reason this organization, this Crime Stoppers program, has been as successful as it is. They donate their time, they donate their efforts, and they donate other things to make sure that this program stays as successful as it has been. We also have a coordinator that is a Baton Rouge police officer, Sergeant Don Coppola. You might have seen Don on the news. He worked with me at Public Information Office and still kind of splitting his time between Public Information and Crime Stoppers. Hopefully we can get him full time if the chief will allow it. And we also have the assistant coordinator, Brandy Alford, who is basically a crime analyst, and she is basically runs the office. Brandy takes a lot of the tips, stays in touch with the detectives at the Violent Crime Unit, and makes sure that those tips are passed on to those detectives for follow-up, and follows up on those tips that she does give, that her and Don give, to make sure that they are following up on those specific tips. Now, how Crime Stoppers works, I'm sure a lot of you wonder, how do you, if you're anonymous, how do you get paid? How do you, make sure that everything is anonymous? Well, first off, with the Crime Stoppers office, it's located at the State Police Violent Crime Unit, where we have BRPD, major assaults detectives, and homicide detectives. The East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office, major assault homicide office, and the State Police Homicide or Criminal Investigations Bureau, along with their the State Police Task Force, which goes out and handles fugitive arrests for violent felonies. And they've been a big help to us, because anytime we put our fugitives on our local television affiliates and on the newspaper and the Advocate, or on radio, the State Police Task Force is who we send those tips to when we receive information on a wanted fugitive. And they immediately, I have to say, and thank Kevin Reeves and the State Police, Colonel at the State Police, for work that the State Police does also to help us. Probably about 80 to 90% of the calls or tips we get are BRPD related. They go to the Baton Rouge Police Department. The rest are Sheriff's Office and Livingston, Ascension, and some of the surrounding parishes that we do cover. But the vast majority are BRPD, and it's probably why BRPD actually staffs the Crime Stoppers office for us with a police officer and the crime analyst. It's tips are received from concerned citizens. They're either, like I said, through telephone, web tip, or a phone app. The tipster is assigned a code number when they call. There's no names are used, no caller ID, no track or trace of the web or the tip on the app. None of that is done. Those callers are given a code number that they're asked to write down or remember. And it's important that we don't know their name. We don't know the information at all on who's calling. But we take that information that they give us on the tip. The information is immediately passed. Brandy can walk down the hall. She's about 2 doors down from the violent crime office where all the detectives are housed. She can walk down there and give that specific tip to the detectives that are working that case. The tipster is advised, obviously, to call back and to check on the status of their case and give the code number when they call back. So when they call back in to check on their case or the information they've given on a case, they just give whoever answers the phone, whether it's Brandy or Don, or we even have a call service whenever they're not at work. It's 24/7. When they call in, they just give that tip number, their number, and they can look up the information that they've given and check and see where the detective is on following up on the information that they've given. Once an arrest is made on any felony case or upon indictment for a homicide, the tipster is asked to call back in before the scheduled payment day. So once we arrest somebody based off of the tip that the tipster is given, or once on a homicide, if it's a homicide tip, once a grand jury indicts that person and we have that true bill from the district attorney's office, we schedule that tipster for payment on payday. So that tipster will tell them to call in before the payday. On that payment day, the tipster's designee goes to a certain local area bank that we tell them to go to. They have a piece of paper where they put their code number. We'll have a secret word for the day written down and us on that slip of paper. And then the tipster puts that paper in the drive-through canister and sends it to the teller. We've already prearranged, gone up there the morning before and given the teller the cash in the envelopes, and it's separated by tipster, by their number. And that tipster will get that envelope with cash sent back to them through the canister. So the tipster doesn't have to go pick up the money themselves, but they better trust the person that they send to pick it up. So we don't know who the tipsters are. Nobody knows who they are. They go through the drive-through, they pick up the money, and that's it. So obviously, Crime Stoppers organization is funded by private donations and fundraising. So we are kind of I guess a pseudo public entity in the fact that we do work very closely, and we are manned by the city parish with Baton Rouge Police Department employees, but we are a nonprofit when it comes to the tips, and the money is raised through private donations and fundraising. So some of the initiatives that Crime Stoppers has, we do community outreach. Obviously, we attended numerous community functions throughout the year. I know 2020 is a little different because of COVID. A lot of these community functions and things have been postponed or canceled. So, hopefully 2021 will be different. We can get back, hit the ground running, and continue to be out at all these different community organizations and events to promote Crime Stoppers, to promote the tips, and reduce crime again in Baton Rouge. Some of the pictures you see on the slideshow, the top pictures are from a poster contest that we do at local area schools, and we give the winners of that poster contest $100. And we also go in to the schools and have events, presentations to discuss Campus Crime Stoppers initiative, which with that Campus Crime Stoppers initiative as a goal to reduce violence and bullying in the schools. Several tips have come from these presentations, which have led obviously to the arrest of students in possession of illegal guns, narcotics, stolen property, and bullying. So Crime Stoppers has been very effective in the schools, helping to reduce bullying, violent crimes, and taking guns that potentially could be in the schools out of the schools. So that's some of the initiatives. We have our Crime Stoppers kiosks, where we have numerous kiosks that are set out throughout the 8 parish area. We have them at courthouses, at retail establishments. Those kiosks put our information about crimes of the week, fugitives that are wanted, things like that. when people are sitting in court waiting, which they may be sitting for hours sometimes, they can look at the kiosk, watch the fugitives that scroll through, and that has led to tips and on crimes, and as well as tips to help us locate these wanted fugitives that we have. The Crime Stoppers playing cards, which you see in the top and the center, are playing cards that the Department of Corrections has allowed for us to put in the prison system. And each one of those playing cards has an unsolved homicide from the 8 parish area that Crime Stopper serves. Those playing cards were put in there years ago. We've just come up with some new playing cards because the first set deck had been so successful, and I think we've solved 9 or 10 homicides from that particular playing deck from information that we've received from individuals in the prison system. When they're playing those cards, they see those unsolved crimes, and sometimes they get information from other prisoners who may have committed those crimes. They call in and give tips. And so there is a line set up. It's a free call for a prisoner to be able to call into Crime Stoppers. It's one of the few places they can call for free, and they can call in and give us the tips on those specific crimes that they see from those playing cards. We have the P3 cell phone app, like I stated earlier, which you can download on your cell phone to submit a tip. And we have the Crime Stoppers podcast, which recently started. Clay Young Enterprises kind of produces that podcast, and we've aired 3 episodes about unsolved homicides in Baton Rouge. And information from that we received after one of those podcasts led to the clearance of the Anthony Holden homicide. So out of 3, we've cleared 1 of those unsolved homicides from the podcast, and hopefully we can produce more of those podcasts in the future. Law enforcement, we have 2 main fundraisers during the year. We have our Law Enforcement Awards Luncheon, which unfortunately was canceled, as well as the golf tournament that's canceled as well because of COVID this year. But at that awards luncheon, we are able to recognize those law enforcement detectives and officers that have gone out of their way for the Crime Stoppers organization and for just helping the community and clearing cases. So we're actually able to recognize our law enforcement partners at that awards luncheon. The Crime Stoppers wouldn't be as successful as it is without our media outreach. Obviously, you've probably seen some of the billboards. You've seen the Crime of the Week with our association, our partnership with WAFB TV, and the fugitives that we put on WAFB and in the Advocate. And right now we're running about a 98% arrest rate on those fugitives, so it is extremely successful in apprehending individuals that are wanted for felony crimes throughout the 8 parish area in Baton Rouge. I think tomorrow morning, Thursday mornings, we do a weekly talk radio segment on 107.3 FM, and a lot of times we'll bring in police officers to talk about different aspects and areas of crime. I believe tomorrow it's actually Suicide Awareness Month, and we've got Sergeant Randy Richard with the Baton Rouge Police Department that handles the wellness program for BRPD and some of the issues related to police suicide. So she's going to discuss that tomorrow in our podcast. But we talk about crime, talk about many different things. If you have questions about areas related to crime in Baton Rouge, whether it be burglaries like Sid had back in the 70s, or whether it be narcotics or anything like that, we have police officers there able to answer your questions about those particular types of crime. Again, the podcast is mentioned on there about our media outreach. So some of the notable cases from 2020 that Crime Stoppers was involved in, one was on January 2nd of 2020, Jeremy Anderson was arrested for committing the homicides of 3 homeless people in Baton Rouge, and a Crime Stoppers tip led to his arrest and indictment. Obviously, it was a concerning time in Baton Rouge when you had somebody going around just randomly shooting homeless people. So it was a Crime Stoppers tip that led to the arrest of Jeremy Anderson, and Mr. Anderson is in jail on those homicides. One of the other cases was an arson suspect and a murder suspect in East Feliciana Parish. DeAndre Gallman, he was arrested back in April from a Crime Stoppers tip. East Feliciana Sheriff's Office found a burned out truck and later found a body in a ditch a couple days later, kind of close to where that burned out truck was. And it was a Crime Stoppers tip that led to Mr. Gallman's arrest on that case. I guess the Rotary Club probably be most interested in the Crime Stoppers tip that led to the arrest of the individual that was accused of defacing the Centennial sculpture downtown that the Rotary Club donated to the city. It's a gorgeous sculpture, and within a week or so after the individual that was arrested, Caleb Davis, had spray painted at the base, some graffiti at the base of that particular sculpture. So we were pleased to be able to help and to solve that particular case. It also led the mayor to come out and name Crime Stoppers as a graffiti hotline. And so we started to get a lot of tips about graffiti, Sweet Olive Cemetery, and a lot of places off of Florida Boulevard. And tips that we received also led to arrest in those cases as well. So we were pleased to be a part of that particular case, all those particular graffiti cases. The Crime Stoppers stats for 2020, and they're up here on the screen. We've solved 73 felony crimes so far this year in 2020. Since 1982, when Crime Stoppers was founded, we've solved over 13,797 felony cases. We've made 101 arrests this year, and about 12,602 arrests since 1982. We've recovered $419,000 in stolen property, and about 15 million, a little over 15 million in stolen property since the inception of the program. $366,000 in illegal narcotics were seized this year so far, and over 20 million in illegal narcotics seized since the inception of the program. And total recoveries, total recovered property and narcotics, almost $800,000, and total recovered property and illegal narcotics, and over 35 million since its inception. So we've paid out so far a little over $34,000 in rewards, and since inception, we've paid out $2.2 million in rewards to tipsters that have called Crime Stoppers to give us information. And kind of the breakdown for crime solved this year. So far in 2020, we've solved 3 homicides. Now, these statistics actually are through the month of June. So we've solved a few more since then. 3 homicides, 3 armed robberies, 3 attempted homicides, 3 burglaries, 4 felony thefts, 2 auto thefts, 2 arsons, been about 20 narcotics cases, and 28 fugitive arrests. So a total of 73 cases that were solved so far this year. And that's just as of June numbers. And since inception, you can see we've helped clear over 261 homicides. So Crime Stoppers program is, especially the Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers program, has been extremely successful over the past 38 years. Sid had a lot to do with that, and I just hope to carry on the success of Crime Stoppers in the future. And if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask, feel free.
So, Johnny, one of the questions Lori Aronson asked is, what can we do as a business community to support Crime Stoppers? What's the best way to make a financial contribution or to become involved?
Obviously, the best way to make a financial contribution right now is to write a check to the Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers. We don't have a way right now to take web payments. That's something I'm working on as of today, to try to get a link online at crimestoppersbr.com for the donations to come in right that way. But you can write a check and send that check to Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers at 9000 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70815 is the zip. And but obviously, businesses, there's a lot of things. The chief has started in Baton Rouge, has started the Real-Time Crime Center. And that Real-Time Crime Center is the future of law enforcement. It's actually, I think, going to help offset the numbers, I guess, vacancies that we have of police officers in the city. Technology can help leverage that manpower shortage that the police department has. And with the Real-Time Crime Center, a business can contact the police department and the Real-Time Crime Center and find out what they can do to help have the feeds from their cameras go to the Real-Time Crime Center. There's a lot of advancements in technology. There's AI, artificial intelligence technologies that these camera systems have. And BRPD and the Real-Time Crime Center have gone with a Motorola company that has artificial intelligence and incorporated into the cameras that we have, the crime cameras. But they're also able to take feeds from business owners across the city and feed their connections from their exterior. Obviously, we don't want your interior crime camera either in your house or in your business, but homeowners can do the same thing and just register. And I'm sure soon the police department will have that registration online to be able to let people register those cameras. So when a crime occurs in an area, people with exterior facing cameras that are registered, when a detective goes out, he doesn't necessarily have to scour the entire area and knock on doors to find video footage from that crime or the business. They're already registered with the Real-Time Crime Center, and they're able to send emails out to those businesses and those residences that are registered and say, look, check your camera between this time on this date and see if you see something suspicious. And then they can download that information that they get off of their cameras directly into the Real-Time Crime Center, and the police are able to follow up on that information.
So Barbara Alton asked a question: how do we have our camera feeds tied into the police department? Is there a link on the website, or? Well,
right now there's not. I mean, I know I left BRPD and May 30th was my last day. At that time, there was no specific link. I do know that they were working on it. There's a program in New Orleans. It's something NOLA. It's a registration for community businesses, and that's the objective of the Baton Rouge Police Department, is to get that website, that community registration portion of the cameras up and running. I don't know that it's there yet. Obviously, you can call 389-3800. You can ask to speak to the commander of the Real-Time Crime Center, and that commander can take down your information and look for the best avenue to have that camera feed either implemented into, you can't, the problem is you don't have enough individuals in the Real-Time Crime Center to monitor every person's feed, but having access to that feed when it's needed, they can pull it up, having the links to have the access to that feed. Whenever a crime occurs, they can pull it up and get that feed or that information from that business. So basically, the registrations, knowing that the business has cameras that are active and functioning, is the starting point. Eventually, to be able to have those links to be able to pull up that camera feed immediately if a crime is happening at that moment, and they receive a call and they say there's a crime at, AAA hardware. The officers eventually, hopefully, pull that camera feed and direct the officers that are going to the scene, the descriptions of vehicles, the descriptions of the individuals. So they're not quite there yet. You have to understand that the Real-Time Crime Center was built on a shoestring budget. New Orleans, their Real-Time Crime Center, I think they spent $10-20 million to put together their Real-Time Crime Center. BRPD put theirs together with about $50,000 and money from grants. So, but it looks just as nice as New Orleans Real-Time Crime Center. It's going to function just as well. We just used a public-private partnership to develop the Real-Time Crime Center in Baton Rouge, and that was something I was very pleased to be a part of before I left. I think it's gonna definitely help to reduce crime in Baton Rouge once it's completely up and running.
So you're going to tell me that the NCIS New Orleans, which can automatically go into any webcam anywhere in New Orleans and see everything, is not real?
No, not the TV show NCIS. I mean, the New Orleans Real-Time Crime Center is pretty impressive, but Baton Rouge would definitely give them a run for their money. You can't. I've watched crime shows, and I think I've quit watching some of these crime shows. I think one time when I saw they had a homicide suspect and they peeled the cornea off of his eyes to get an image of the last thing he saw when he died. I'm like, oh wait, no, that's not possible.
Darn, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So Sid did, in his introduction, talk a little bit about how we can be more safe. What are some tips as citizens of the greater Baton Rouge area? How can we be more safe, and how can we better protect ourselves?
Obviously people nowadays, they go around with their face in their cell phones. A lot of times they're not paying attention to their surroundings. You come out of a business, you walk to your car, you're on your phones. Put the phones away. Be aware of your surroundings when you're going, out of your car or even in your car. Obviously, you shouldn't even be using a cell phone in the car. But I see this more and more often when if I'm in a parking lot of a business and I see individuals get out of their cars, they're looking down at their cell phones, walking into the business, not paying attention to what's going on around them. So that's one of the first things I can tell you is try to pay attention. There's a time and place for, looking at your text messages or your cell phones or pulling something up. Walking to and from a business when you're out in public, it's just not the time. You want to be aware of your surroundings. Obviously, there's things you can do around your house. I worked in burglary as a burglary detective for 8 years, and I can tell you, anytime I went to a burglary scene and there was an alarm on a residence and that alarm was properly activated before the homeowner left, the burglars never got anything out of that house. They attempted, there's several attempts to get in the house, but once that alarm goes off, they hit the road. Burglars don't want to be seen. They don't want to be, it's one of the tougher crimes to solve because usually you have no witnesses to a burglary, but technology has kind of changed that. You have the cameras becoming so cheap and plentiful, webcams and different things that people have set up around their house, Arlo and Ring technologies, all these different things that people have. Those are beneficial. They will help reduce crime in your area. When somebody runs up to steal a package on a porch, they think twice when they see a Ring camera, if they see it, or a camera system that's set up out in the exterior of the home. So, hardening your residences, obviously cutting trees, bushes, things away from doors and windows that can offer concealment for somebody that wants to break into your house. All those things add security to your residence and businesses as well.